There's a feeling no one talks about, but most of you watching this have felt it. You spend an evening with people you actually love. You laugh. You tell stories. You feel, in flashes, almost normal. And then you get home, close the door behind you, and something inside you collapses. You sit on the floor with your coat still on, the lights are off. You don't move for a long time. The next morning your body feels like it has the flu, but it doesn't. Your head is foggy. Your skin feels too tight. You cancel everything for the next 2 days. You don't answer messages. You hide. And then you start the labels. The cruel, quiet labels you give yourself when no one is watching. Antisocial, cold, selfish, dramatic, defective. You think, what is wrong with me? Other people see their friends and they feel recharged. You see your friends and you need 3 days in a dark room to recover. You wonder if you actually like the people you spent time with. You wonder if you're broken in some way that other adults figured out and you missed. The labels stick. They get repeated in your own voice until they start to feel like facts. And the worst part is that you don't even tell anyone because saying it out loud sounds ungrateful. But today, I'm going to tell you something that maybe nobody has told you before. It's not your fault. And I'm not saying that as a cliche. There's a real neurological reason your body does this after social contact. There's a name for the experience. There is decades of research behind it. And once you understand what is actually happening inside your nervous system, the self-attack stops on its own. Welcome to the Cloud Brain. Today we're going to talk about what I call the social hangover and the real science behind why your body treats Saturday night like a 5-mile run. Let me describe something to you first. Imagine your nervous system as an old radio with a manual volume dial. Most people are born with that dial set somewhere in the middle. Conversation comes in at a normal level. Background noise stays in the background. Other people's emotions register, but at a manageable volume. You can be in a busy restaurant, and the chatter is just chatter. You can hug a friend who is having a hard week and feel close to them, but you can come home and not carry their week home with you. Your dial is calibrated to filter, to mute, to pass through. Some of you, watching this, were born with a different radio. Your dial doesn't sit in the middle. Your dial sits permanently turned almost all the way up. Every voice in the restaurant comes in at full volume. Every micro-expression on every face you see registers at full intensity. The friend who is having a hard week, you feel her week in your own chest, hours after she goes home. You don't have a filter, or your filter is much thinner than other people's. And here is the part nobody tells you. Running that radio at full volume for 3 hours costs your body real, measurable energy. It is not in your head. It is in your blood, your muscles, your nervous system. By the time you get home, you have spent the equivalent of an entire workday of energy on something everyone else thinks is rest. This brings us to the science. In 1997, the psychologist Elaine Aron published a body of research naming what she called sensory processing sensitivity. Her finding, repeated since in dozens of independent studies, is that roughly 15 to 20% of the population has a nervous system that processes sensory and emotional input more deeply than the rest. Brain imaging studies done years later, including work by Bianca Acevedo at the University of California, Santa Barbara, showed something remarkable. When highly sensitive people look at images of other people's faces, their brains show much higher activation in regions tied to empathy, attention to detail, and emotional processing. Their mirror neurons fire harder. Their insula, the part of the brain that tracks internal body state, lights up more brightly. Their nervous systems are doing more work for the same input. Now, layer onto that another piece of research. The autonomic nervous system, the part that handles your heart rate, your breathing, your digestion, has 2 main modes. The sympathetic mode, which gears you up for action, and the parasympathetic mode, which lets you rest and digest. Stephen Porges, a neuroscientist who developed what is called polyvagal theory, showed that social interaction itself, even pleasant social interaction, runs on a specific branch of the nervous system. He called it the social engagement system. To be in a conversation, your face has to read another face. Your voice has to modulate. Your body has to track tone, posture, eye contact, breath. All of this is autonomic work. You are not consciously doing it. Your body is doing it underneath you. And the more sensitive your system, the more energy this work consumes. Here is the third piece, and this is the one that most explains the hangover. There is a concept in psychology and physiology called allostatic load. It is the cumulative wear and tear on the body from sustained activation of the stress response. Your nervous system has a budget. Every interaction, every loud voice, every unexpected change in plans, every emotional shift in the room draws from that budget. For most people, the budget is large, and the daily withdrawals are small. For sensitive nervous systems, the budget is the same, but the withdrawals are much bigger. By the end of a long evening with friends, your account is empty, not low. Empty. And the body, when it hits empty, behaves the way it would after a physical illness. Inflammation rises. Sleep gets restless. Concentration disappears. The whole machine has to go offline to recover. This doesn't happen the same way to everyone. Some people can do back-to-back social events for a week and arrive on Sunday genuinely refreshed. They are not stronger than you. They are not better than you. Their nervous system is calibrated differently. Their dial sits in the middle. Their filter does most of the work for them. You, watching this, are probably not that. You probably have what the research calls a high sensitivity profile. You read rooms before you enter them. You notice what other people miss. You pick up on the small shift in someone's voice, 3 sentences before they say what is wrong. This is real. This is measurable. This is not a personality flaw, and it is not in your head. And here is where the pain lives. Because the world doesn't see your nervous system. The world sees you cancel. The world sees you say no to a second drink. The world sees you leave the party at 10. People you love, people who love you, will say things like, "You used to be more fun." They will say, "You change so much when you get older." They will say, "You should push yourself more." And you will believe them because you can't show them the inside of your nervous system. You can't pull out a chart of your cortisol levels at the end of the night. You can only say, "I'm tired," and tired sounds like nothing, and you start to think maybe they are right. Maybe you are choosing this. Maybe you could push through if you wanted to. The cycle becomes brutal. You force yourself to go. You crash for 3 days. You blame yourself for crashing. You force yourself to go again. The crash gets worse each time. Eventually, you stop trusting your own body at all. Nothing about you needs fixing. Your nervous system is doing exactly what a deeply attuned, deeply sensitive system is supposed to do. It is paying attention. It is noticing. It is processing. The hangover is not the body failing. The hangover is the body finally being allowed to put down a load it was carrying the whole evening. Let's go a layer deeper. There is a framework in chronic illness research called the spoon theory, originally developed by Christine Miserandino. The idea is simple. Imagine you start each day with a fixed number of spoons, where each spoon is a unit of energy. Most people have so many spoons they never count. They wake up and they have enough for whatever the day brings. People with sensitive systems or chronic conditions or autoimmune disease wake up with 12 spoons. 12. Brushing your teeth costs 1 spoon. Getting dressed costs 1. Making breakfast costs 1. By the time you arrive at the dinner with friends, you have maybe 7 spoons left. The dinner itself, the laughter, the listening, the noticing, costs 5. You leave with 2. You drive home on those 2. You walk into your apartment on the last fume. And then your body, very correctly, says, "No more. We are out. We are not opening for business tomorrow." What looks like antisocial behavior is just a body protecting itself from going negative. What looks like dramatic recovery time is just the system refilling its own spoons at the rate it can. There is no shortcut to that refilling. Pretending you are fine doesn't refill the drawer. Forcing yourself out the next day empties what little came back. The only thing that actually works is letting the body do its repair on its own timeline. There is one more piece worth knowing. Researchers studying introversion, including the Cambridge psychologist Brian Little, have found that even people who genuinely enjoy social interaction can be temperamentally introverted. meaning their nervous system rebuilds energy through solitude rather than through stimulation. This is not the same as being shy. It is not the same as social anxiety. It is a baseline difference in how your body recharges. An extrovert at the same dinner is literally pulling energy from the room. You're spending energy in the room, even if you love every single person there. The dinner can be wonderful. The hangover is still going to come. The two facts are not in conflict. I am not going to pretend this comes without cost. Real things get harder when your nervous system works this way. Friendships take more careful management. Family events become exhausting in ways you can't always explain. Career events that involve long days of people, conferences, networking, parties, leave you flat for the rest of the week. You miss things you wanted to be at. You disappoint people who don't understand. You sometimes feel like you are watching the rest of the world play a game you don't have the equipment for. This is real, and I am not minimizing it. But the other side is also real. The same nervous system that crashes after a dinner is the one that notices everything other people miss. You are the friend who picks up on the slight change in someone's voice and asks, "Are you okay?" before they have admitted to themselves they are not. You are the one who reads a room and knows exactly when to change the subject. You are the one who carries deep loyalty for the small number of people you let in, because letting people in costs you something real, and you don't waste it. The same wiring that creates the social hangover creates a depth of presence and attention that the world is, frankly, starving for. In a culture obsessed with broadcast, you are built for intimacy. That is not nothing, so what do you actually do with this? 3 things to carry. First, stop fighting the hangover. The hangover is information, not weakness. When your body says, "I need 2 days," those 2 days are part of the cost of seeing the people you love. Build them into the plan. Do not schedule a dinner Friday and a brunch Sunday and a coffee Monday. Choose one. Let the recovery be invisible to anyone else but real to you. The sustainable rhythm for a sensitive nervous system is one significant social event followed by buffer days. That is not a limitation to push past. That is the architecture you live in. Second, learn to distinguish between the events that cost a lot and refill you, and the events that cost a lot and refill nothing. Both will give you a hangover. Only one is worth it. A long, deep dinner with 2 close friends will cost spoons and give some of them back over the following week in the form of meaning and connection. A networking event with strangers will cost the same number of spoons and give nothing back. Track which is which. Say yes to the first. Say no to the second, even when it looks important on paper. Your nervous system gets a vote. Third, design your social life around the kind of contact that suits your wiring. One-on-one almost always costs less than groups. Daytime almost always costs less than night. Familiar places almost always cost less than new ones. Conversations about something specific almost always cost less than open small talk that requires you to read every face in the room continuously. None of this is a rule. It is a pattern to notice. When you start choosing the conditions that fit your nervous system, the hangover gets smaller. Not because you are fixing yourself, because you are working with the architecture instead of against it. You are not someone who can't handle people. You are someone whose nervous system pays full price for every interaction, and that full price attention is exactly what makes the people around you feel seen. The hangover is the receipt. The connection was real. The cost was real. Both can be true. You don't have to apologize for the recovery time any more than someone with a different body has to apologize for needing food. Your need for hours alone after seeing friends isn't a defect. It is the rest of the cost showing up after the fact. And once you let yourself pay it without shame, the friends you love stop becoming things you dread and start becoming what they were always supposed to be. People you choose, at a rhythm your body can carry. If something here resonated, this is your place. We'll keep talking about how brains like this one work, how they get tired, how they get lost, and how they find their way back.